His music right now.
Wow.
And I see that it's a list called David's Greatest Hits Challenge. And,
Really?
For those of you who have been following the tour last season, I did try and slip in some song titles to the commentary, and Magnus is listening to some of those songs.
Oh, that's cool. And here we go, you guys. The Oslo Esports Cup, the first major in the 2022 season, has started. And David, what's happening on the board?
It's a Sicilian defense, Skaya, and that means it's going to be dynamic from the start. It's going to be a lot of action in this one. Duda opening with his king's pawn, Magnus replying with a Sicilian, and I'm expecting him to trade a set of pawns in the centre now. There we go, capture, and is this called the Khan variation? It's black just allowing white to take centre, but black is going to set up a wall of pawns. It's going to heat up as the game goes on. There we see Duda just taking a few moments and eventually deciding to bring his bishop out, one of the main moves. And okay, the move's speeding up. Black developing his bishop, kicking white's knight back, and now parking his bishop on a nice long diagonal.
Yeah, and I have to say I'm very excited to see this variation actually on the board, because this bishop retreat is quite ambitious, but it does also have its risks. And the primary one, is the fact that some pawns are left undefended on the right side. But Duda doesn't actually go for that. Instead, just moves his queen one square forward.
Pushing a pawn in the centre first for black. Okay, he does bring out a piece. At some point, white will castle, most likely on the king side. Often in the Sicilian, we can see white decide which side to castle on, and his intentions, if they're really ambitious, he'll castle on the long side. But first, he offers a trade of dark-squared bishop. So Duda may be surprised by Magnus's opening choice, just taking a positional approach on this last move.
And attacking on both sides of the board. So this is a great start, exciting start.
If we do see the kings parked on opposite sides of the board, as you mentioned, it's just going to be complete chaos. Both sides throwing pawns against each other's kings. Wow. First, Magnus Carlsen just takes a step forward with one pawn, just solidifying the dark squares, but a bit slow.
So there must be something here down the line that he's thought about.
Oh, and Simon, you're going to be happy with this last move. White's knight has just developed itself, but that has cleared the path for the white king to castle on the queen side, on the long side. And, OK, moment of truth. Which side is that white king going? If Duda castles left with the king, he's going on the attack. He wants to win, and maybe we'll see a situation where Magnus is under pressure and facing a big attack very quickly. If Duda castles on the right side of the board, though. And, OK, he's delayed the decision. Simon, are you happy to see this one? F for forward. The F pawn has marched forward, maybe preempting the march of the G pawn as well.
Because if you're going to beat Magnus, you can't be second-guessing yourself.
That's true.
And okay, Magnus decides not to commit his king and instead concentrate on developing the light-squared bishop.
I'll go along with that as well.
Yeah. And, oh, after a long pause, we do have a move.
Yeah, and Duda continues to procrastinate. He hasn't chosen which side to put his king on. And like Simon said, you can't delay it too much longer with white. Soon the position will open up, or soon black will be fully ready to kind of create some threats. And the longer white's king sits in the centre, the longer he delays the decision, I think he's just going to miss his chance.
This move only played once before in a junior tournament.
I think it's just that it's the first game of the tournament, the first game of the day, and Duda just wasn't really warmed up enough to go straight for the attack, straight for the kill. Maybe playing the world champion, he thought, OK, let's just grow into the game and get in the flow a bit later on. But sometimes, early days, you still have to attack, you still have to go for it. And Magnus now has blocked up the centre. What do we think of this move? If you could kind of pick up this knight and put it on this square or this square, then it would be really dangerous. Black has just weakened those squares. But, OK, Duda, after another long think, does decide to trade bishops. And after black recaptures, this rook actually on a decent square, can swing across now. White has blocked things up. So this is the key moment. Can black break open the centre, or does he have to wait and prepare that for a move or two?
If you're going to this sharp, open Sicilian, probably one of the sharpest openings you can get, the tempo increases. So you don't really have time to play like A3, the move that Duda played generally.
Yeah, I think it was just not much else choice, not much else to do. If black had castled kingside in this position, then suddenly white will start to unleash the pawns, push them forward. So I think he's just trying to counter against this. And by trading pieces, remember, black is still a bit cramped. This bishop in particular can't develop itself to a good square. While you're cramped, you want to trade pieces and want to swap things off. And now some crazy stuff is happening on the board.
Look at the evaluation bar.
Yeah,
I mean, is that
It's a blunder. Yeah, OK, let's catch up with the position. This knight was attacking the queen. We saw a trade. And here, Duda has, instead of moving his knight, which was under fire, just moved his queen to the side, eyeing up the rook along this diagonal. But can Magnus just grab this knight? maybe you can just give away your rook here, and after you take this pawn, threatening the rook, threatening to promote, maybe there's some counterattack, maybe a queen check, maybe the white king suddenly is in big danger in the middle of the board. It's really committal to take the white knight, to sacrifice material. Then, well, okay, Magnus has done it. We see the moves very quickly. Magnus has sacrificed a rook for a knight. So black is down on material now, but look at that black pawn. It's attacking the rook in the corner, wants to make a new queen, and no matter where white's rook runs away to now, black's queen is going to jump forward, it's going to pounce, check the white king. Black's king at some point is just going to castle, and white's king is going to be eternally in danger.
This is kind of typical for a Sicilian. When it goes wrong for white, suddenly do some counter blow, and Magnus is just unleashing here. This, you know, even if black simply castles, which he has done, the rook can come to the middle. White's king is stuck in this bad position, and black has great attacking possibilities here, I'd say.
Bringing his queen in. And this would have prevented Duda's last move, re-centralizing the white queen. And suddenly this pawn is going to win the game long term. Magnus let this pawn disappear. He let it go. He castled instead. And now after the white queen retreated, yes, black gets his rook to the open file, hitting the white king indirectly, but this pawn is now doomed. He's just gambling, going all in on an attack against the white king. And look at this, Duda, he didn't castle with his king. He couldn't, he wasn't allowed to. So now he's brought his rook across, and his idea is to castle by hand, as we call it, dropping his king back and then shuffling it off into the corner. So it's long-winded, but it's necessary, and Magnus needs to strike now. If he'd spent his time just 2 moves ago, he would have probably won already, but spending his time now didn't necessarily help too much. So the move we showed was played, black's bishop came out, took a pawn. That was possible because of a pin, and now white's king has run away. So now black's bishop is under fire from that white pawn in the centre of the board.
And actually, Magnus retreats the bishop. Maybe he didn't spot this opportunity.
And that's very safe. His bishop's on a decent square. I guess it's like you said, Simon. He saw that the bishop wasn't attacked, but he couldn't find anything useful to do. Maybe he was unsure about bringing the black queen in. Now he has gone and grabbed a pawn. But there we go, the evaluation bar now on white's side. And this is what we were warning about. Yes, black had an attack for a while. White's king was feeling really unsafe. But suddenly, if we do that count, white has an extra rook. Black only has a knight and a pawn in return.
I feel would be something white wants to do. He's not going to be in any immediate danger then. He has 2 rooks. 2 rooks incredibly good later on. OK, but he's threatening to win the queen instead.
Yeah,
right.
Wow. Bit of a strange move there, but white does have a threat of bringing his rook in the middle of the board all the way across and trapping the black queen.
And there you can see Magnus has actually just retreated his queen. And we can see Mamedyarov in full focus mode.
Yeah.
And there you see queen takes pawn. And if you've been winning and you let it slip, it's the worst kind of feeling. Because you've done this all to yourself. Why did I allow that queen into the middle of the board?
Sorry, I was thinking the best thing I ever saw was someone with a score sheet at the end of the game. That is such a good way to show your depression. Just make a little paper airplane and write in your opponent's head.
That must be a good feeling, though. And a few moves on the board. What's happening, David?
Yeah, things are heating up on the board, and also the clock. Look at this. Both players now around the 2-minute mark. And as Simon pointed out, white's queen went and grabbed a pawn. Now it is a rook for a knight and a pawn. That's the material balance. So white ahead on material, but this black knight may be creating some threats. At the very minimum, black's knight is going to go back to the e5 square and plant itself on a nice outpost. Magnus Carlsen, he loves kind of having strategic long-term compensation. He doesn't mind being points down, material down. He just wants good pieces, and that black knight is going to be a good piece. And there we see Duda's board. Duda has his board really big on that huge screen. Magnus had it much smaller. That's really interesting for me. But, OK.
Under a minute on the clock. He needs to speed up. This position is getting critical.
40 seconds. I didn't realise he was so low.
40 seconds.
Wow, OK.
Minimum, just push a pawn, kick that knight out of your half of the board. There we go. That's the most obvious move.
They're only next door. He probably heard you.
Whoops.
No, we can guarantee there is a soundproof wall. Players cannot hear us.
Go on, take the knight, Magnus. Queen takes knight.
Scared me there for a moment. But
you know,
my point is that was the most obvious move, but it cost him most of his remaining time, and now Duda is going to be eternally in time trouble, down to 40 seconds. Yes, he's helped that black knight back to the centre of the board, but it was more important to kick it away, especially low on time. You don't want a knight parked in front of you, in your face, near your king. And, OK, he has kicked back that black knight, and now the white queen has stepped back. Black's queen needs to jump in, I was about to say.
Come in.
Before it's too late. That black queen was almost trapped.
Very interesting now, extremely interesting. I mean, as Jan pointed out, the white king is a little bit exposed, but Duda has control of the centre of the board here.
That black knight isn't really under threat if white's rook takes that black knight on the next move, black's queen can actually just drop back on the diagonal and check the white king. But no, solidity is Magnus's middle name, and he's just solidified that black knight and a queen trade offered. Black's knight is super strong after all, but trading the queens means it's going to be very one-sided. The white rooks will eventually come into their element. So maybe that black queen has to go in the direction it came from, back on that diagonal, preserve itself. What is Magnus thinking about? There we go. He does eventually retreat his queen, and Duda continues to centralize his pieces as well.
Yeah, I mean, Magnus's knight is such a beast of a piece there in the middle of the board. It's supported by the pawn. It's a beautiful, beautiful, in a position, beautiful position, and the bishops come round as well. But still just all to play for here. I think it could go any result is possible, right?
Now Magnus. Moving the knight. I mean, we were waxing lyrical about this knight.
Yeah,
Did you see Duda's eyes when he made that move? Wow. Duda's eyes just widened. Like, why has he moved his great knight to be traded off?
Oh, that's very strange. I mean, why the knight can never be budged from the centre of the board because it couldn't have been attacked by a white pawn, and he's just moved it there. I mean, even the rook going up one square now is only going to help White's position. Very strange.
Just take that knight
take it off.
Take it off the board and move the king onto a dark square, protecting the rook. As long as you've got that covered.
16 seconds for Duda.
Yeah.
16 seconds. Ooh.
And he doesn't take that black knight. This is a really strange move by Duda. He could have kept things super simple. He's attacking the black queen, though.
It's encouraging the queen to come forward.
Yeah, some stuff to calculate there. Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe the black queen can jump back into the position. Maybe the black queen just has to retreat. Either way, next move, Duda will be itching to get rid of that black knight.
He's gone in. So now, if the queens come, okay, this is a clever check because Magnus needs to keep the queens on. Otherwise, he's going to really, really struggle here.
Yeah. And now Duda, he has a one-track mind. He's going to try and trade pieces because his rook long-term is going to be better than black's bishop.
To my eyes, it doesn't look like a great piece.
Queens and knights combine far better than queens and bishops as well. So very, very strange by Magnus there.
I agree with you both there, but I mean, I'm not that pessimistic about Magnus's position, just because, the white king is so shaky. If white tries to get even a little bit ambitious, he can't do it. Can't use both the rook and the queen because there's danger of perpetual check.
I guess white has to try to play this pawn break in the centre and open up the rook. That's something I'd be trying to do if I was white here. But okay, this is a good move from Magnus, stopping those opportunities. Okay, he's going for another idea here, trying to swap the queens off in a crafty little check over towards the black king.
Yeah, if white can retreat the queen now back to the f5 square next to the black queen, swap it off, then white is going to win. The rook will beat the bishop. But Magnus can maybe just use his queen, put it on a different square, dodge that check. Maybe he can even move the black king. Some options here. He needs to avoid that trade. Okay, he retreats his bishop back to cover any potential checking squares from the white queen. Duda, meanwhile, exhaling there, maybe not so happy. I think Duda missed a trick just 2 moves ago. He could have brought his queen back to the centre of the board to stop black's queen occupying this dream square. Look at black's queen.
He was shaking his head there, wasn't he? Yeah, I mean, and now past pawns need to be pushed.
That A pawn actually has a clear run through.
8 seconds, 7 seconds.
8 seconds, wow.
Really not that much time
Look
for
at the
Duda.
clock.
He has to make a move and panic. It just feels like it's starting to set in.
Yeah, I mean...
It's all about centralising queens, and Magnus is the best player in the world when it comes to centralising queens. Other players forget sometimes, and now white's queen stuck behind its pawns. It's only protecting things. Black's queen dominant on the dark squares, black's bishop dominant on the light squares.
I mean, you'd like...
2 seconds for
2
Duda.
seconds.
2 seconds. He's going to move.
He made it with 2 seconds left.
Wow. He's quite a cool customer still, isn't he? I mean,
He's not looking
that cool, actually, is he? I'll say he's pretty cool, but I mean, there is a limit.
Look at the bar!
Wow.
Is it a blunder?
Wow.
I think it's a big mistake. And look at this. Black can continue pushing his pawn because now if white's rook goes up to capture one of the black pawns, this pawn will continue pushing down the board. Black is almost about to make a new queen. And
how does he do it? How does he always do it, Magnus? I mean, I always think, he's going to struggle to, draw this one, and then he goes on to win.
Yeah, I think maybe there's a few winning moves, but black can push his B pawn forward now, connect those two. There we go, the pawns connect. White can't take that pawn with his own pawn because the black queen would pounce and take the white rook in the corner. these two black pawns are just going to win the game. White's king coming, trying to ride to the rescue, but it's not going to be enough. Look at those two pawns. If White's rook goes and captures a pawn now, there's going to be a check from the black queen, and White's rook is going to drop.
Yeah.
That one of those two black pawns is going to cost White the rook. Magnus is going to win.
Harry and
7
Barry.
seconds,
Wow.
5 seconds, and
He
look
might
at
lose
those
on
two
time here.
pawns.
He might just lose on time because he's lost anyway. I mean, is that it? Is it over?
Yeah, it is over.
It's over. Okay, well.
Did he actually lose on time? Or did he just resign?
I think he just let his clock run out because it's a hopeless position anyway.